step file and then do some 2D machining. So I'm in 3D CAM now, so if we import the step file and then we go to view, so there's the step file. I can use the mouse wheel just to rotate it around. So obviously we need to rotate the model around. So if we click into the objects area here, we can highlight the solid and then go to geometry, rotate, and then choose the plane of rotation and then the angle. So in this case we need to tip that over by 90 degrees. Okay, so that's tipped the model over into the right orientation, but we can see that the Z0 is the bottom of that shape, and it's somewhere in the middle, I guess, but we can change that. So to do that we go to milling, set origin, and then we can set X, Y, Z to be the minimum, midpoint or maximum. So maybe we want the XY minimum and the Z maximum. The Z0, which is the Z maximum, should always be the top of the job. Okay, so that's moved the model. We use Control and then depress the mouse wheel to shift the model across. So what we need to do is just to select the edges that we want to machine. So with the cursor in the graphics area, we right click, and then if it's not selected we can choose pick edges. As we move the mouse over an edge, you see how it's highlighted. So we click for that edge, then we hold down the Control key to add that small radius there. So we've got those two edges. Now we right click the mouse and say make to sketch, and that gives us a sketch of those two elements. We can see the properties of the sketch down in this window here. Now you notice the order is bad, so if we just click on that and say reorder, so that gives us an open sketch. What we can also do here is you can reverse the direction of that shape as well if you want to. So having got the sketch there, we can now right click on that and say do a profiling operation. We're not sure of the direction yet, but we can change this in a moment. Left or right, climb or conventional milling. The roll radius is an approach and runoff movement. If we want to do roughing passes, then we could add on an offset extra to leave an amount of material on, and then we can then select do the finishing passes and so on. But to start with, we'll just leave those as they are. Select the tool that we want to use. There'll be a list of few default tools in the library, but you can add to them by using the tools option in the objects window here. The clearance plane is a distance above Z0 where it's safe to rapid. The feed change plane is above the top of the job where it's safe to where it changes from rapid to a feed rate. The depth is the depth you want to cut, and just for now we'll take off the step downs. If you don't know the depth, then I'll show you how to use the dimensioning function to find that out. Okay, so we click OK, and that's created the toolpath. Now as you can see, it's on the wrong side, so if we highlight the operation here and just double click that, then you can change the offset to left or right. The other thing that you can do with is the roll option will create a small radius as it approaches and leaves the job, but when the profile operation is active, down here in the properties window you've got extra control, and what you can do is you can extend the toolpath below past the start or the end. So with those set to 0, you can see how the tool moves on a small radius. The approach movement is a small radius and a small radius off at the other end, but you can change that. So if you want to extend before the start and end, then you could make that, say, a distance greater than the tool radius. So if you want that to happen, you can use it on either or neither of them. So if you take it past the end, okay, so we don't have a ramping option to ramp down as it's approaching, but if the tool is starting away from the job, then it means you're not plunging down into material, so that you can make this extend past the start point as much as you need to, taken into the tool diameter. So that's done a single pass down to the depth. As I say, if you don't know the depth, we can go into geometry and create a dimension, and then down here in the messages dialog box here you can select just the between 2 points in Z only, and if your snapping is set to endpoint, then you can simply snap onto the endpoints there, and it will just give you the dimension in the Z axis. So if you don't know the depths of a particular feature, you can just measure them. Okay, so that's done the pass there. Now if we wanted to, we could go back into there and we could set the step down as 1mm or whatever you need it to be. So that creates multiple passes going down to the required depth. If you want to leave a finishing allowance on there, then you can, that's the offset extra, and that can be a minus value as well. So if you want to take extra material off, you can put in a minus value on there. So what you might need to do is make one cut with an offset extra of say 1mm, and then another operation, or just do a finishing pass here, which will take off that allowance. And whilst you're doing that, if you are doing a finishing pass, then you can set the finishing step down to 0, so that the roughing cut takes steps of 1mm as specified here, but the finishing pass will go straight down to a single depth, which is the depth of the final depth here. So you'll get multiple passes roughing and then a single pass for finishing. Okay, so that's that. Then you could do the same, exactly the same sort of thing for the other features here. You can press escape to get rid of doing any dimensioning, and then you can highlight that edge and right click and say make a sketch from the edge. Oops, I didn't select that, sorry. Make a sketch from the edge. So now we've got another sketch in there, and we can do the same sort of operations on there. So it's a single sketch there, so we can just say new profiling operations, and again we can leave all those parameters. What happens is when you create a profiling or a pocketing operation, it remembers all the values that you used on the previous operation, so it puts those in as a default. So if they're the same as previously, you just need to click OK. And the only thing you might want to do here is change the direction or change the mode of operation from left or right to or conventional or climb machining, depending on what you're doing. So that's machined that. We do the same thing obviously over on these edges here as we did on those, and the same thing, exactly the same thing here. Okay, so that's how you do that part.